Do you ever see some text that just compels you to immediately click on it and read what it's linking to? And yes, we've seen clickbait before, but I'm talking about something that is so perfectly beautiful that you have to stop, sit up, and pay attention. As part of my ongoing attempt to document everything from Something Awful, today we're looking at a thread titled "Gallons of Urine Poured on My Sightseeing Boat and Passengers Today." A couple of warnings, I guess. We're talking about human waste and labor exploitation. This is a thread in the general bullshit subforum of Something Awful from a user called Lunaran. They made their account on February 21st, 2003, and haven't been active on the forum since January of 2010. This thread was made in 2004. The social media platform Facebook, then known as The Facebook, had just been launched by Mark Zuckerberg and his Harvard roommates. This isn't a story about what a goon did. Goons are Something Awful users, by the way. Some of them are that kind of goon, but most of them aren't. This is a story about what happened to a goon. Today was one of the worst days I've ever had at work. Allow me to explain. I work as deck crew for a sightseeing boat company in Chicago that does architecture tours on the river downtown. I had already worked 2 15-hour days, Friday and Saturday, and intentionally showed up a half hour late this morning to try and squeeze another half hour of sleep in. I knew what had to be done in the morning on the boat that I was on because I left it 8 hours previous and knew how long setup would take. Needless to say, I was already ready to go home. Then came the 1 o'clock architecture ride, 117 ticketed passengers on board, plus an extra 4 who showed up on Michigan Avenue for a boat ride that actually launches out of Navy Pier, whom we're nice enough to let on for free. We're puttering down the river, we turn north at the junction and proceed, as we do on every tour, beneath the Kinsey Street Bridge. Now the bridges all have grated decking. You can look up and see the sky through them. In the captain's pre-tour safety announcements, it's usually mentioned one should not look up with your mouth open in wonder, since a car might go by and you might get an unpleasant taste of Chicago. The Taste of Chicago is an annual summer food festival held in Grant Park. Now that never really ever happens, not that I've ever seen. Today, of course, had to be different. I'm relaxed in the pilot house with a crossword, since during the rides themselves I just sit while the people get their tour from the volunteer docent and the crossword keeps me awake. When I hear this splattering noise, like a heavy rain, and a few scattered yelps, I get up, go outside and look out over the passengers seated on the deck. The passengers on the left side are all wet and appear horrified. Something behind the boat is raining through the bridge into the river. Shit, I think. Some idiot Streets and Sands employee just went over with a street sweeper and soaked our passengers. Then I notice the passengers appear a lot more horrified than that. Oh God, it got on my mouth. It's urine. The smell hits me. It's old urine. I look up onto the bridge and see a black coach bus, like the kind old ladies take group vacations on, disappearing past the buildings. They had gone over the bridge and, being ignorant fucks, probably decided they could skip a piss tank pump out by just opening it into the river through the bridge. Talk about the wrong place at the wrong time. I said to the captain, "Turn the boat around. Now." Now, being the assigned deck crew on this ride, I have to handle this. The captain has to drive. Needless to say, I'm not entirely sure how to handle 60 people who all need to be sanitized and given antibiotic shots at once. We train to handle people falling into the river, heat stroke, shit like that, not a torrential downpour of human waste beneath Kinsey Street. All I can do at this point is hold my breath and give away every paper towel and work rag on the boat and wait until I have a clear idea of exactly what to tell them as a whole. Some passengers are of course visibly distressed. Women have hair matted to their face. People's clothing is sticking to them. Babies are crying. I'm close to being sick all over the deck and really worried that someone else is going to, because I know as soon as someone does, it's just going to be a domino wave of barfing that will sweep across the boat like a sickly sweet stomach shockwave. Nobody did. Thank God for small favors, the ones he thinks makes up for shit like this. These people, to put it bluntly, were very pissed off. Now, I also get to be the company PR face, so like a good little worker bee, I try and balance being as helpful and understanding and apologetic as I can with helping to maintain the balance of the bureaucratic tower of shit looming above me. The captain's already on the cell phone doing damage control. I'm to tell everyone they are of course granted full refunds, and anybody that needs anything extra on top of it because of what happened will get it. I'm specifically told to mention that we can't call 10 ambulances down because the situation is not life-threatening. A lot of them are going to want to visit a hospital sometime soon. What I don't mention is some of the shit that people now have to worry about. Ranging from tetanus to hepatitis, the best we can do for them is pay a cab to Northwestern Hospital for anyone who needs it. Then come the usual arse-hats. We want a representative on the dock to take names of everyone involved in this. How is all this stuff of mine going to be replaced? There's no way I'm going to pay for this. You coming out here and telling us we can have refunds in cab fare to a hospital is downright insulting. I want a bus for these people. You want a bus? Excuse me then, Spartacus, while I pull one out of my arse. Refunds? A lot of us have jewelry on that's now soaked in urine. I wasn't aware that gold could be used to soak up liquids. I have a flight to catch at 5, and now I've got urine in my phone and my clothes. You have 3 dots on your sleeve, and that will remind you that this is not our fault. It's not as if the captain saw that shit pouring down and drove under it anyway. The problem, of course, is the little bridge joke. It's funny only if it doesn't happen. Now they've all got that taste of Chicago. People have the idea in their heads this shit happens all the time, and that we know about it, and are therefore to be held accountable for what is in reality a rather fucked up act of God. We're back at the dock and an army of urine-soaked people march on the ticket office. Great, they're gone, and now they're Diane's problem. Well, I thought, the dock guys are going to help clean up the boat, and I get to go home early. Nope, no such luck. As the 5 of us, including the bartender on the boat, are scrubbing all 104 chairs in the deck, the captain reappears. Who's been telling people there's no 3 o'clock? Not I, says I, and then I stop in mid-scrub. Wait, there's a 3 o'clock? Yeah, they want to send us back out on the 3 and then the 5 after it. Shit. Are you kidding me? My shoes and pants are soaked in piss and boat soap, and they want us to turn the boat around in half an hour for another goddamn ride? Yep, afraid so. The bureaucratic tower of shit, I think, is defined as people at the top having no idea what's actually going on at the bottom, and vice versa. A call is placed to my father, who now has to make a 40-minute drive into the city with a change of clothes for me. He didn't make it by 3, and I had to spend the next 90 minutes trapped on the boat in fucking nasty clothes thanks to the main office and their money. Meanwhile, though, as I scrub my way to the back end, stern, I'm basically running the hose directly into the all-weather speaker to try and get rid of the smell back there. It won't go away. I then look up at the American flag flying off the pole on the stern. Ah shit, that's soaked too. We cut it down. I take it and make sure I fold it proper with the triangles and shit, and then of course we smuggle it around past the pilot house where the passengers won't see us placing it into a trash bag to deal with it later. Cleanup continues until a guy on the dock wants to talk to me. I've had people coming up constantly and asking things. What do I do about this? Where do I go for that? And I just point at the ticket office and say, talk to them. Before I can do that to him, he says, "Hi, I'm a photographer for the Chicago Tribune. Company policy is that all press stuff has to be directed to our main office. The main office is out in Palatine, and nobody there knows a goddamn thing about what goes on in the dock anyway, besides how much money we make them." He adds, "I've been getting some good shots of you all cleaning up the boat, and I thought it was touching the way you folded the flag properly. Can I get your name?" "A 3 o'clock, huh? Yeah, you can get my name. I'll spell the son of a bitch." So now, at least it's over, I'm showered, and I may be in the paper tomorrow. Any Chicagoans have any idea about who might have shat in our boat? Black coach bus, gold letters, nobody got a chance to read them. A few people independently described it as a rock and roll bus, which I can't really explain the meaning behind, but it seems important. Firstly, Lunaran's a great writer. Excellent, excellent prose. The whole thing would have pissed me off. Okay, let's get the piss jokes out of the way. Pay attention to the screen, there's a lot of them. Thank you. And some of you, I know you're out there, are going to be saying stuff like this poster. Urine is sterile. While it's disgusting to be soaked in it, you're not going to catch anything. And while you might technically be right, if they dumped the piss out of a waste container, you can bet that it wasn't all that was in there. Add that to the probability that those tanks rarely, if ever, get properly cleaned, and you've got a nice breeding ground for bacteria. Ignore the part there about the 12-year-old Czechoslovakian piss, please. Anyway, where were we? So Lunaran has to get the boat back to the dock, make sure everyone's safe, soap the boat down, and run 2 more tours that day while still in piss-soaked clothes. The American flag got pooped on, and they had to solemnly take it down and fold it triangle style and hide it. He finishes his shift. 5 passengers were taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital for testing. Lunaran still has no idea who the bus owner is at this point, and he goes home and posts this thread on the internet. We're still 4 years away from the iPhone 3G, right? It's really hard to explain how offline the world was in 2004. You had to, in most cases, still physically go on the computer to post. There wasn't an 80 megapixel camera in everyone's pocket. We hadn't invented apps yet. So there was no real way to find out who this was. There's very little information to go on. Other notes from the thread include comments like, "You're gonna get sued hardcore, even if nobody gets remotely sick." Maybe it was R. Kelly's bus. OP identifies it as a rock and roll bus. Maybe that's something to go on. And it's crazy that even back in 2004, we knew R. Kelly was a deranged sex pervert, and we just kind of let that happen in society. But about being sued, Lunaran has to say, bring them on. The company's not responsible. Any of the other 24 tour boats on the river that day would have gotten the same treatment had they been in our place. And that is quite optimistic. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits roaming around about this one very quickly. You only really have to worry about corporate getting sued. I really can't think of a way anyone can lick it to you, plus you probably don't have any money or equity. Hopefully corporate already has their lawyers working on this already, depending on how large your company is. And to be honest, even if they sued the boat company could just sue the bus company, assuming they can be found. But it would be fairly easy, surely, to just check who would have been going over the bridge at that time according to their timetables, I guess, for the same amount of money. Oh, unless there is some standard, such as this much of your boat must be covered to prevent torrents of urine off bridges, then if the boat in question did not match the standard, the boat company may be liable. But that would be a good argument that the bus company should have to pay. They were the ones out of line. Lunaran has more important things to worry about. The CPD, I'm told, are tracking down the bus in question. If nothing else, they are to be held accountable to very strict city laws about polluting the river. They hit you hard for just trash. Human waste is a huge no-no. Obviously, an event like this hits the news. Apparently, when the shit went down, one of the passengers called a friend at the Trib and leaked the story. So yes, this ends up in the Chicago Monday Tribune Metro section. At the outset of a Chicago River boat tour on Sunday, Captain Sonia Lund deadpanned that passengers should not look up with their mouths open when passing under the city's grated bridges, lest they get a true taste of Chicago. About 15 minutes later, passengers got more than that. They got a deluge when the boat was doused with a foul liquid substance that appeared to drop from one or two charter buses as the boat passed under the Kinsey Street Bridge, passengers and tour officials said. And the Kinsey Street Bridge has its own Wikipedia page, by the way, and yes, there is an incident section. And apparently, the Chicago Sun-Times says that people saw the license plate number on the bus. Interesting. Segue time. It saddens me that most of these articles are just gone. Utterly inaccessible. The original links in these threads, are just gone. These are records of historical events, just completely disappeared after 2 decades of assorted corporate mergers and neglect. Look, I just want to read about the piss. Anyway, the next day rolls around, and we have an update. Buses responsible have been located. They wouldn't tell me any more than that. The chief mechanic today congratulated me with the phrases like, "You went above and beyond the call of duty," and "You're a good man for staying at your post." I like him a lot, and it's the attitude at the company that we're all in the fucking Navy or something that gets to me. I stayed at my post as a thing to be proud of if I'm protecting my buddies in a foxhole during wartime, but we work for a sightseeing boat company, for Christ's sake. All I protected by taking that ride out was ticket sales and the money going up to Palatine. A verbatim account. Diane, personally, I think it's bullshit we even sent out the 3. But the boat was sold out. And from a labor rights perspective, and also getting covered in bodily fluids perspective, this is gross from the tour company, right? I know we're relitigating a 2 decades old incident, but surely you could be justified in closing the tours down for the day, but no, keep going, covered in piss. Surely you just stop working for the day. You'll literally go home. Just leave, walk out, hit the bricks. One other thought that sticks into my head coming out of all this, was this made up for clout? Or at least proto-clout? Did he see it happen and invent an idea? And no, going through the timestamps, our OP, Lunaran, posted this before it hits the news, so he had time to see it or have happened to him and then post about it before anyone would have known about it. The Chicago police, meanwhile, are trying to enlist local stores to scour their security tapes to track down the right bus. The bus driver for rock star Dave Matthews called from the road Monday to say his luxury coach was not the one responsible for dousing passengers in a Chicago River tour boat with foul-smelling muck over the weekend. Witnesses on the architectural sightseeing cruise told police they saw a long black tour bus dump liquid waste Sunday afternoon as their boat crossed under the Kinsey Street Bridge. About 2/3 of the passengers seated on the upper deck of Chicago's Little Lady were soaked with the brownish-yellow substance. One witness gave Chicago police an Oregon license plate number that belongs to the 2003 Monaco Royale coach driven by Jerry Fitzpatrick, who has been Matthews' tour bus driver for 3 years. Fitzpatrick confirmed he was in Chicago with Matthews, whose band played the second of 2 shows at Alpine Valley in Wisconsin later that night. But the driver said he was parked in front of the Peninsula Hotel on Superior Street when the waste rained down from the bridge several blocks away. "There's no way I could be responsible for that," Fitzpatrick said from downstate Effingham. "I haven't emptied the tank for days. Besides, we're very cautious about how we do that sort of thing." Which is interesting. It did happen. Sure, Fitzpatrick says that he didn't empty the tank, but it did happen. Was it Gua? R. Kelly? Could be anyone. Luna Ran is still on the case. It's possible it wasn't Fitzpatrick. One, I saw the bus too, and from the angle we were at, it would be impossible to get a plate number from on the boat. The woman who stayed at Peninsula probably called it in later on the assumption it was the right bus. 2, the D&B bus had a full tank when the CPD checked it out. It's hard to generate 50 gallons of urine in a day. And 3, the bus company could have always had other buses they rented to some other people or group in the city that day. This gets crazier by the hour. And eventually it is revealed that the Dave Matthews Band didn't just have one bus. They had 5 buses on tour. State prosecutors worked with the nearby fitness gym called the East Bank Club to identify the offending bus from the gym's security videotapes. The driver of the secret piss bus was Stephen Wall, who was driving the band's violinist Boyd Tinsley around. And imagine being such a fucking sick violinist you had your own bus. Boyd and other members of D&B were not on the bus during the incident. Stefan initially denied dumping the waste and was supported by the band. However, he was later determined to be the only person on the bus during the incident, and in April 2005 he pled guilty to the dumping, and the band fired him without pay. He was sentenced to 18 months probation, 150 hours of community service, and a maximum $10,000 fine was levied against him, which was paid to the Friends of Chicago River. CBS News reported all of this at the time. The band themselves, in exchange for not admitting guilt to the incident in court, agreed to pay a $200,000 fine to fund environmental protection efforts and other related causes. They also donated a combined $100,000 to 2 groups that protect the river and the surrounding area. Will all of that money offset the dye used to turn the Chicago River green during St. Patrick's Day? Well, that remains to be seen. The story spreads hard, and who can blame the media, really? It makes Drudge Report, Jimmy Kimmel, Rush Limbaugh, The Onion take the piss out of it a few years later. Luna Ran doesn't really get anything out of this, just the knowledge that Dave Matthews and his band, through the grace of black water tanks and a lazy bus driver, pooped on him. I think I should be grateful my name's not in the papers, though. Sonia's was in the article thanks to that taste thing, and she's now had every TV and radio station in the city call her. She's angry now that her name will forever be known in conjunction with this fucked up event and nothing more. God, could you imagine if you're on a dinner cruise when this happened? As usual with all of these threads, they kind of just fizzle out, or in this case, I guess, dribbles out. It's mostly just another 2 pages of the unfunniest piss jokes you've ever seen. I like this as a thread. News moved slower. Things, something could happen and you had to wait for it to go online. It's not like, you have Twitter in your pocket and you immediately post the news moving at the speed of light. Things had to take their time to disseminate out there, and something awful had always been there chugging along. You guys ever play 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? You're all now 2 degrees removed from Dave Matthews because I cleaned up his band's pee. Thank you for watching or listening if you're putting this on while doing your chores. As always, I have a Patreon with some bonus content. There's usually early access to this kind of content to patrons as well, and the backing music for this video is in the description. I make all of it. It's a mix of covers for some video games I like, but also some original music. And don't forget, the internet makes you stupid.
Walk into the bank with some shit in your pants, 'cause you had too many crystals and you somehow tried to dance. Walk up to the teller with an awkward grin on your face. Hand over the shitty check to him and it's time to get paid. But he says he can't cash it 'cause it's covered in shit. There's no way to sign it and it's not even legible.